fans. This is Kurt DeVille with Counterpunch Boxing News, and I am live. I am letting the chat load for you guys that's coming on in. Before we begin, bars. Listen, we have a lot of confusion going on in the welterweight division. We have an anticipated fight that we thought that was close to getting made. Okay, close to getting made, but I just found out some information. I just dropped a video about Rick Glacier and his intel on what's going on with the negotiations with Errol Spence and Terence Crawford, because as we know, that fight's supposed to be sometime in November, and they're just trying to iron out the stipulations and get these negotiations so everybody can be happy. But however, according to what Rick Glacier had to say, and we're going to go through that and kind of counterpunch it as we go, okay, on what Rick is talking about. Carlos Williams, what's up, brother? Counterpunch to you. Carlos in the place to be. Carlos, hit that like button. Become the pioneer. We got 7 people on the chat. Let's get those likes up so we can notify YouTube that I am live so they can do their job like I'm doing mine, okay? Nicholas Jacobs, ain't nowhere to run, ain't nowhere to hide. This fight is long overdue. Nicholas Jacobs, I'm with you. I'm with you. Thank you, Carlos. I see that one like. Let's get more. We got 9 people on the chat. Let's get those likes up. When you guys come in, hit the like button. Hit the like button, okay? Smash it, counterpunch it, headbutt it, kick it, elbow it, knee it. Do whatever you need to do. Put your nose in. Whatever you need to do. So when we got enough people in here, I'm going to go and we're going to go blow for blow, play by play of this video, okay? We're going to listen to the audible by Pound for Pound Sports, okay? Brad Hart, what's up, brother? What's up? Counterpunch to you. Jenga Barungu, keep it up. Counterpunch to you. You guys hit that like button, okay? If you guys come in, you see that like button, smash it for me, okay? Front snap, kick it. Goatee. But it's just crazy what we don't hear behind the scenes. That's what makes boxing the sport that I love, that I hate so much, because it's a lot of things that we don't know. It's the things that we hear versus the things that's really going on. You know what I mean? It's almost like a bullshit play. You see what you see on stage, but you don't see what's going on the sidelines, what's going behind the scenes. Bobby Collins, what's up, brother? Counterpunch to you. Bobby Collins is in this piece. Thank you for those sources. Keep them coming, bro. I will counterpunch as time permits, okay? Because I am a very busy man with a plan. Bars. So, you guys hit that like button. We still got 13 on here. Guys, hit the like button. I promise you, YouTube doesn't let me shine. They're not going to let you shine, okay? We have to make YouTube what it is. That's the whole strength in numbers. Hit the like button. So, but no, this interview is very, very interesting, right? Very, very interesting, because it's like, to me, I look at it as a eye-opener to what people think versus what's really going on, okay? And let's look at what we do know thus far. Before even looking at the video, let's do a recap. Errol Spence beats Yordenis Ugas, stops him in, I think, 9th round, 10th round. They stop him because Ugas' face is jacked up, right? Guanajuato, right? And he's like, yo, matter of fact, he didn't even fall. He didn't even fall to the ground. So, I mean, I can't say that. And he calls out Terence Crawford. He says, that's only one person I want, that's Terence Crawford. I've been wanting this fight, right? And he did that to appease the fans, and I think a lot of the PBC guys are really going on board, right? They're really going on board on what they claim they want versus what I guess they really want. I'm not sure, because, Errol Spence was trying to throw any and every number out. But then he said he was just kidding about the negotiations. And this is before real negotiations were actually taking place. Now, negotiations are taking place. So the most positive thing we can go with in this situation is there are actual negotiations, real life negotiations that are taking place between these two guys. And you're gonna trip out. Okay, probably you guys are watching the video, so I can understand. I just dropped that video, but I wanted to go live at a certain time because I got things to do. But I wanted to go through the whole video on this live with you guys. That's only a snigment, but it's my counterpunch after that, which I will talk about throughout this fight. Let's hit that like button. We got 6 people, 7. Thank you for whoever hit that like button for the 7. I guess you were listening. People's ears should be burning. You know what I mean? Like, hit the like button. We got 25 in here. Catherine Murphy, shout me out. Big Kurt, counterpunch to you. Hit that like button. Idel Gonzalez, what up, man? Man, let's get those likes up. That's what's up. Just hit the like. Exactly. It doesn't cost you a thing, But it's crazy because all these years, this fight has been going on. Let's see. Let me go ahead. What was it? 17. Pacquiao was beat by Jeff Horn. Jeff Horn, decision Pacquiao. And then Jeff Horn goes on to fight who? Terence Crawford. Okay, so let's look up Terence Crawford's resume for just a second so we'll know what we're dealing with. Because Terence Crawford, believe it or not, has been in this weight class for like 3 years. 3 years. And it's been 3 long-ass years, might I add. Long. So let's look up Terence Crawford for a second. Born September 28, 1987, 34 years of age. Libras in the house. Right? Of course, no losses, no draws, 38 fights, 38 wins, 29 by KO. Okay, we have more smoke. Spence got exposed. Well, Team Spence got exposed. So, yeah, it's safe to say that. But we're going to counterpunch, and we're going to show why. Okay, I need more people in here for that. So that's why I want you guys to hit the like button so other people can be notified that we are live. But anyway, let's go on from, let's look at the professional record. So we started at Jeff Horn back in June 9th of 2018. All right. And Jeff Horn, he stopped Horn in round 9. Okay. Who do you think will take it? I'm going Errol Spence Jr. Kurt. Catherine Murphy. If it's this year, I'm going to go with Terence Crawford. If it's next year or sometime like that, that makes Terence Crawford that's much older. It's called the waiting game. You wait fighters out. Promoters are better at it because promoters don't care. Promoters are like this. I don't care how good a guy is. I just know he won't be this way next year or the year after or the year after that. Therefore, that guy that's pound for pound best in 2022 won't be pound for pound best in 2025. That's just common knowledge. What we're looking at with Terence Crawford is a guy that is in his peak, but his peak is starting to tweak a bit, and it will. But right now, he's a bright, fiery fighter with all the talent and all the gifts, and I don't think anybody could beat him in the welterweight division right now. But if you give it 2 or 3 years, that will change now, won't it? Just by time. Father Time will destroy any fighter at his prime's potential. That's the only thing that's going to destroy it besides lifestyle, like drugs or alcohol or, you know what I mean, jail time or other things like that, outside interferences. But if it's not for any of those other things, Father Time will definitely be that one thing that gets people out of there. Okay? So after that, well, same year, October 13th, he took on Jose Benavidez, knocked him out in the 12th round, which was a very good fight. And a lot of people criticize Terence Crawford because it's like, yo, it took you that long to get Jose Benavidez out of there. But let's look at Jose Benavidez for a second, okay? He has 29 fights, 27 wins, 1 loss, and 1 draw, 18 wins by KO, okay? So he has 2 blemishes on his record and 1 loss, okay? He had a draw by Francisco Emmanuel Torre. And I remember that fight. A lot of people thought he's supposed to lost that fight. And before that, he took his first L from Terence Crawford. So maybe he's on the downcline. We will see this weekend, and I'll be going live for that when he takes on Danny Garcia, which Danny Garcia is going up from 147 to 154. So we will see how good he is. Now, mind you, if Jose Benavidez beats Danny Garcia at 154, okay, I want people to understand it. If he does that, that will show and that will spike Terence Crawford's interest and overall credibility up. Okay, because he was the only guy that beat that guy. Now, if Danny beats him, that will mean, okay, well, you got Danny and Terence. They've beat Jose Benavidez. And in Francisco Emmanuel Torre, he has had the draw. So those three guys are kind of all in the same pool, but that's a small pool, okay, because he only has one loss. Okay, and that's not bad. So, Terence Crawford is still the only one that beat Jose Benavidez, which is the older brother of David Benavidez. If you don't know who Jose Benavidez is, okay, he's the junior. So you had the junior first, then you had big ass David. So that's what we're looking at, okay? Then next, we had April 20th, 2019, and it was a trip because I couldn't see the fight. I was pissed because I was in Brazil and I didn't get a chance to watch it. I bought it and couldn't see it, right? It sucks. But he fought Amir Khan, and Amir Khan quit in 6 rounds. Now, anybody that knows anything about Amir Khan, he might have a glass chin like Glass Joe in company. But one thing he's not known for is to quit. Okay? He's not known to be a quitter. All right? And then he quit against Terence Crawford. And that just shows you that he was getting that ass beat. Terence Crawford was tapping that ass. That's what he was doing. In Kell Brook, right? And speaking of Kell Brook, Amir Khan and Kell Brook fought. That's another story. But Amir Khan quit. Okay. The next Mean Machine, Kavaliauskas, right? And Kavaliauskas, he scored a knockdown. I thought it was a knockdown, but a lot of people would argue with me. Whatever, because he was grabbing him at the time and he was hitting him. He might have lost his balance, but I believe if you get hit from any punch and you fall in a result of getting hit, that's a knockdown. So a lot of people are like, oh no, it wasn't a knockdown. No, it was a knockdown. Even the best get knocked down. Floyd fucking went down. Money Mayweather got knocked down, and they didn't even rule it a knockdown. So that just shows you, the pedigree of these fighters. They won't even want to take a knockdown, let alone get beat. Okay, but he stopped Kavaliauskas because what he did, he pissed Terence Crawford off. Let's hit that like button. But he pissed Terence Crawford off, you see, because Terence Crawford knew he was getting banged because Mean Machine was in it. And let's look at Mean Machine's record, okay? Mean Machine has 2 losses, but understand, let's look at, he had his first loss by whom? The same fucking guy we're talking about, Terence Bud Crawford. Terence Bud Crawford gave him his first L. Okay, he beat Ray Robinson, and then he beat Makai Zuwiski, and then he had a loss by Virgil Ortiz after he hurt Virgil Ortiz. Okay, you guys have to understand, he hurt Virgil Ortiz Jr. He showed he gave Virgil Ortiz his pound of flesh. Okay, that's exactly what happened. Virgil showed he belonged in the welterweight division, but that was his second loss. But his first is to whom? Terence Bud Crawford, okay? Then we had Kell Brook. He stopped Kell Brook in 4th round. That was a very interesting fight because you had 2 counterpunches, okay? And the 2 counterpunches, Terence is known to, I swear he does some Aikido or something because he uses your force against you. You know what I mean? But that's the whole idea of counterpunching, right? And he caught Kell Brook in a place where it was like, damn, he hit him perfectly in the eye and disembobulated him. Okay, and took him out in round 4. Okay, so anyway, then we had Kell Brook. All right, so Kell Brook, he got taken out in round 4, and it was like fight was even. Actually, a lot of people had Kell Brook up from Terence Crawford. Because Kell Brook's no slouch, bro. He isn't. Okay. And as soon as Terence Crawford found a hole of possibility, right, he exploited it and got Kell Brook out of there. boom, it was over with. It was like, damn, what happened? If you would have went to the bathroom in the part of round 4, right? Beginning of round 4, and you'd have came back, that fight would have been over. Okay. That fight would have been over. All right. So then we had Sean Porter, Mr. PBC, Mr. Ambassador, Mr. Promoter. Well, not promoter, but Mr. Commentator of the PBC. He has his own podcast. He's the commentator, one of the official commentators for the PBC. Very stand-up guy. Love his tenacity. Love his competitive spirit. And I'm thinking like, damn, Sean Porter, man, he's going to give Terence Crawford that smoke. A lot of people thought that, right? Because Sean Porter was the same guy that went toe-to-toe, blow for blow with Errol the Truth Spence. All right. And Spence showed the difference when he caught him with that right hook in the 11th round. You know, and even when when Errol Spence caught him, he was just like, Sean Porter got up, let's go, because he was still wanting that smoke. So they fought. It was a good fight. Split decision, okay, for Sean Porter. However, when he got in there with Terence Crawford, he exactly did what he does. Sean Porter is a beast. Sean Porter is a war-working horse. He's a warlord. He's going to give it to you. But what happened? Terence Crawford, and it showed, okay? Terence Crawford thought that he was up, okay? In round 9, it was in between rounds, and he was like, dude, I'm down? How the hell am I down? Okay, and he knew, like, okay, now I got to beat up my friend. Let's be real, okay? I have to beat up my friend. I got to go in there and stop him. And in the 10th round, he went in there and stopped him. Matter of fact, he didn't even have to do that, but he was on his way of doing that. Let's be real. And I think Kenny Porter, shout out to Kenny Porter. Kenny Porter, like, look, you're not going to fuck my son up. My son's going to live another day, let alone fight another day if he wants to. But he didn't. He retired. Okay? And then it just shows you Kenny Porter, tough as he is, grounded as he is, he is that model father figure. I'm that tough alpha male modern figure / father trainer. Okay, he knows how tough his son is because he's tough. His son came from him. His son came out the sack. So he knows that. Okay, so he already knows that, look, my son is tough. But when he's seen Sean go down like he did, he pulled the plug on the fight. That should tell you something right there. Okay, so his dad came in and said no mas. All right, because he already knew this fight is over. Because if he keeps on messing around because he got dropped, then he gets up, he gets dropped again immediately. Because that's when Terence Crawford decided, let me switch gears. Okay? So that's Sean Porter. Now, we have a whole new year. Errol Spence was the last one that fought. He fought Yordenis Ugas. Calls out Terence Crawford. And negotiations have begun. Now, we were thinking that the negotiations were something that were almost here. We heard November. I hope it's still November. However, we have new intel, all right? And since I feel we do have enough people in here. I would prefer 100, but I said at least 50. So we're going to go ahead, like I promised, and go blow for blow, toe for toe for this particular fight, all right? So let's listen to what Rick Glacier has to say. All right. So let's see here. Dude, I miss my YouTube. I miss my YouTube red. Okay, so this is Rick Glacier, and he's going to explain what's going on due to his sources. All right, so let's go.
Well, I don't have any involvement at all. It's just I'm hearing bits and pieces from various sources, and they're a long way apart in every category, not just money, terms, which is always very important in major fights. Example, that Spence wants a rematch clause, but he doesn't want to give Terence one.
Okay, now as you heard Rick say, that it's not all about money. And According to Rick Glacier, his sources, Errol Spence wants a rematch clause but doesn't want to give Spence a rematch clause. So that should tell you right there, you're already trying to get leverage based on what? We're talking about, we're talking about after the fight. These are after the fight stipulations. So if after the fight you're concerned about having a rematch clause, but you don't want the other fighter to get one, there's something wrong with that right there. So we have to address that shit right then and there, okay? Because Errol Spence can get one, but you can't. That means that Terence Crawford can't afford to lose. Okay? And I don't even understand why Errol Spence would want that anyway if you're that confident that you can beat this guy. You know, I've always questioned Errol Spence and his desire to fight Terence Crawford. I always have, just due to the way he talked. I didn't see the same energy with Errol Spence when he was after Sean Porter or when he was definitely after Keith Thurman. He wanted one time like any other time. He wanted one time so badly that he could taste it. You know why? Because Floyd, Money Mayweather said, get him, sick him. You know, so that was basically like a favor type thing. Floyd boasted it up because Keith Thurman was after Floyd when Floyd was fighting, and Floyd said, you know what? Let me get you after somebody you can fight. Let me orchestrate a fight for you. You ain't gonna fight me, but I got somebody you can fight. And that person was Errol the True Spence because he knows what Errol Spence can do. He's a tree chopping southpaw that's very aggressive that will take your fucking head off. And that will just beat you down if you don't have any other defense. If your defense is bad, he's going to exploit it and beat you up. That's what Errol Spence does. Let me check some comments. Kurt is never going against Crawford. Well, I'm not going against Crawford in this fight unless he moves up. You know, plug cap. How you going to wait someone out only 2 years older than you and you the one with the body issues? Well, actually, it was about 2.5 years, honestly. Errol Spence is 32. Terence Crawford is 34.5. Okay? So in 2 months, he will be 35. Okay, so we can't look at that. Oh, it's only 2 years. No, Errol Spence just turned 32. Right? So that's 32 to 35. So that's 2.5 years. We can't look in boxing. In boxing, this means a lot more than you think it does. In boxing, time is precious. Dude, I've seen fighters literally get old in the ring overnight. It's like it's just like, dude, I'm not there. I couldn't jump the gun. I'm not where I used to be last year. So you're saying, wait, I'm out 2 years is shit. That's all you mean. Okay, so let's look at it like this. If he turns 35 this year and they wait 2 fucking years and Errol Spence is 34 and then he's 37, what do you think that's going to mean? I think Al Heyman would prefer that because he has a better edge. That means Errol Spence will still be fresher than Terence Crawford. While Terence Crawford is jumping division after division after division. Where Errol Spence has only been in one. So let me counterpunch you on that one. Bud is definitely at his peak. Yeah, he's at his peak now. But how long will he stay at his peak? Let's be real. That's why we want this fight now. And timing is everything when it comes to boxing. See, and it could go for you or it could go against you. If it goes against you, that means somebody done waited you out that you should have fought earlier. But you think Terence Crawford didn't want to fight Errol Spence? You think that didn't have something to possibly do with the fact that maybe, just maybe, Errol Spence wasn't ready for somebody like Terence Crawford because he's seeing what Terence Crawford does. Terence Crawford is that guy that will upset your reign, and he knows that. You know, and I think if Al Heyman is smart as I think he is, he's already told Errol Spence, you're not fucking with that guy at ESPN. The only way we take that fight is he leaves ESPN. And if he does leave ESPN, he has to do it on our terms. We're not going to give him a rematch clause, but we're going to get one because that just shows that Al Heyman doesn't really believe that Errol Spence could beat Terence Crawford in one fight at one time. See, if it was just one-on-one, that means nobody else is worried about losing because both guys really, truly, 100% equally think they'll win. Okay, anybody that's talking about a fucking rematch clause, yeah, it's good for business, but it doesn't show true confidence in these fighters. It does not. It shows that you may get beat. It's insurance. And what is insurance? In case you get hurt, you want insurance, or you think more on insurance, on the insurance tip, if you believe something's going to happen. That's all a rematch is fucking insurance, people. Listen to me. It's insurance. Rematch is insurance. Man, if I get beat, I'm going to fight him again. But I ain't going to get him one. Do you see what I'm saying? Let's move on. Terence Crawford is the WBO super champion. He can go from weight to weight and challenge top competitors. The boxing world has turned him into Hurricane Carter. Yeah, it's bad. I mean, but see, one thing that he does that Hurricane Carter didn't do was knock these freaking guys out. What up, my boxing Pete? Goes Gonzalez showing that love. Errol is an express train in the later rounds, but Crawford has a different minerals, should be classic. Dude, we want to see the fight. But why would we want to see a fight when these guys are older? We don't want another Pac-Man Mayweather when these guys are a lot older. They were still good because they were that great. But at the end of these things, we'll never see. But that's a whole nother story. I don't even really want to get into that. I don't think Spence wants to fight. Well, I mean, we'll see. We'll talk about that because I'm not done. I'm not done here. So, flash knockdown. Yeah, it was a flash knockdown he caught Sean Porter with. I know what you're talking about. Spence don't want to fight Bud. Jake Paul schools both of them. Jake Paul's too big, bro. Let's get it right, Jackie boy. Galata got disqualified for low blows, but Crawford got a pass. Dude, get the fuck out of here. He hit him one time low blow. I know what you're talking about, that Amir Khan shit. And you're a Terence Bud Crawford hater. I can already tell. Because he hit him one time and he hit him on the hip. He didn't hit him in the ball sack. He hit him on the hip. And he didn't want to continue. So when is it that Amir Khan said no mas to any fight? He did that time. Why? Because he was getting beat up. He got dropped the first round. Okay? He got beat up all those other rounds. And he didn't know really what to do with Terence Bud Crawford, but quit. And that was his way out. So stop. Knock it off. Knock it off. For once, accidentally a low blow. Crawford is a Bengal tiger. He moves fluently and then he strikes at your juggler. Even a lion can't. Yeah, it's crazy. Damn rematch clauses. But I mean, why are we? See, here's the thing. And that just shows, okay, if you want a rematch clause, why are you not trying to give the other fighter a rematch clause? And that's just showing disrespect. And when you start disrespecting a person, that makes that person or that side or that team reluctant to mess with you, if you know what I mean. Bars. Okay? That's what's happening. Counterpunch boxing to you, brother. How you been? I've been good, Kamal. I've been in it. I've been counterpunching it. I got 3 more videos to do after this live stream, and it's going hard. Like Rick James says, hard. G Money. Spence going to wait another year to fight Bud and then going to try to fight him. They trying to aid Crawford out. They've been trying to aid Crawford out. Let me tell you guys something. Do you understand? This is my belief, okay? I think the only reason Al Heyman had Sean Porter to fight Terence Crawford because Sean Porter, if you guys can agree, Sean Porter was the toughest fight that Errol Spence ever been in. Can we agree on that, or yes or no? Can we agree that Sean Porter was the toughest fight that Errol Spence ever had? Can we agree? Yes or no? Please text yes, no, why, in something. Can you guys agree with me? Is Sean Porter the toughest challenge that Errol Spence ever had? Yes or no? I want to hear yes. I want to hear no. Everybody on the chat. Everybody on the chat. Yes, DeVille, you better not duck me, son. You better not duck me, son. Scants Rants, I'm not ducking you. What you got? Where you at? Okay. Did Eddie Hearn think AJ couldn't beat Wilder when he signed the contract with a rematch clause for AJ, but not for Wilder? Hey, that's a good point. However, here's the thing. Scants Rants, here's the difference. Let me show you the difference. The difference is that Shelly Finkel agreed to that already. He agreed to that already, right? And we know Scants, right? Here's the thing. Us talking about that 4-year-old negotiation. Because that's when that was. That was in 2018. Matter of fact, it was around this time, 2018. No, maybe it was in August. When they sent the $15 million flat over, you know what? I'm going to counterpunch it just for you because I'm going to get off that because we talked way too much about AJ. This is welterweight time. But honestly, this is what we had. We had Shelly Finkel and Team Wilder saying, yes, it's okay. We agree to terms. Then I guess they reread it like some idiots, after the fact of saying, hey, we agreed to terms, and then say they never agreed to terms. What they meant to say was we didn't agree to something that we overlooked. That's what happened. And see, and it made them look bad because they were like, okay, well, why didn't you get your lawyers to look at this shit before saying, okay, yes, that's fine. And it only shows you, though, what was the importance. The importance was money. They wanted an increase. So 15, I guess they were like, fuck it, we'll take the 15. Yes. And then they reread it like, whoa, wait. They don't have no rematch clause in this shit, so we don't want it. But Anthony Joshua does. That's what happened. So I'm not ducking you, son. Scance Rants, I'm not ducking you, son. But anyway, yes. Crawford, no, Finkel don't agree to that. Well, no, that's what he did, and that's exactly what he said. That's what Finkel said. He said we agreed to terms. Then about a week and a half later, he said he didn't. We never agreed to terms. Well, yeah, you did. You said you agreed to terms. And that's what Eddie said. Well, you said you agreed to this shit, so why are you, it was a big shit show. Okay. Yeah, but the rematch clause should go both ways, especially if both fighters are champions. That's true. But Wilder was not, and I'm glad, I'm glad we did bring up Wilder and Joshua because that's a great comparison because you have Errol Spence having 3 belts, Anthony Joshua having 3 belts. Then we had Deontay Wilder and Terence Crawford only 1 belt. But what's the huge difference? One's a pound for pound fucking star and the other one was not. One's a 3-division world champion and the other one was not. Deontay Wilder didn't fight anybody to note besides Ortiz, and everybody looks at Ortiz like an old man joke. He has so many old man jokes, it's ridiculous. Don't mean he won't take your fucking head off because I'm an Ortiz fan. I don't want people to get the wrong idea. But that was the only person that he really credited to beating that was worth the shit that's still winning to this day. Dominique Brazil didn't really count because he got beat after the fact. He knocked him out. And Joshua knocked him out first. Then Wilder. And then he got beat up by Otto Vailene, a guy that is not really known to punch but gave Tyson Fury hell. So we're looking at all these situations, okay? But other than that, Deontay Wilder's resume consists of what? A draw with Tyson Fury, but he didn't fight Tyson Fury yet, okay, mind you. So there was no Tyson Fury. It was just Anthony Joshua with his 3 belts and fighting those 3 champions. And one of those was the king that had it shit for like 9 years until, he knocked him out and retired him. Okay, and 2 more champions after that. Then here comes Wilder with the WBC that fought absolutely no other fucking champions. So that's what we're dealing with. Where there is, compared to Terence Crawford, he dethroned Gamboa, which Gamboa is 40 years old now, but he used to be the shit. So let's really be real. He the one that stopped him. He then went to 140 and took every belt there at 140. Then went to the 147-pound division, welterweight, and knocked every last one of those guys out or made them quit. That's what we're looking at. Now we have Errol Spence. He's done well. He's got these belts from Ugas. He's got the belts from Sean Porter. He's got the belts from Kell Brook. So, yes, he's done a great resume. He's fought 3 fighters, but compared to 3 weight classes, that's what we're looking at. Okay, so there is something comparable with Terence Crawford and Errol Spence. There wasn't really something too comparable with Joshua and Wilder because Wilder hasn't done enough. Ask Vladimir Klitschko. Vladimir Klitschko will tell you he hasn't fought anybody. You couldn't say that shit about AJ. And AJ was fighting half the time. That's the difference. Let's move.
Give Crawford one. Crawford's insisting upon one. And Crawford is duly entitled to one due to the fact that he's I would call him almost legendary, if not legendary, 3-division world champ, undefeated, pound for pound, at least 1 or 2. and a champion himself. And there's no reason not to do a rematch. It's the most amount of money for Spence is this fight, and it's the most amount of money in a rematch for Spence. So there's
Okay, let me stop there. Now, like he said, there is no reason that Terence Crawford shouldn't get a rematch. Now, I want you guys from yes or no. Should Terence Crawford get a rematch, yes or no? TC has a belt. You can't deny a champ a rematch clause. The reason why Spence wants a rematch clause is because he ain't certain that he will win. The reason why Crawford wants one is because if he gets robbed, he knows Spence won't fight him again. Well, if he fights him again, though, that just shows you that he can fight him in a different place. There could be more stipulations. And see, the only way I see this fight is knockout. But let's get the fight first. Okay? Yes. He deserves the money. Both guys deserve a rematch clause. And see, what I don't understand about a lot of guys, they talk about Terence Crawford. And see, Terence shut a lot of people up when he stopped fucking Sean Porter. When Kenny came in there, nah, fuck that. You ain't fighting this dude no more. Come on. Let's go home. Dude, I heard the whole story. Kenny Porter told me the whole story. He told me everything that happened. He told me the aftermath, which really wasn't the aftermath, but he told me why. Okay? He told me everything that I needed to know about that. And some things I won't say because, out of confidentiality, but then but most of that stuff, he told me the whole story. And we all know Sean Porter was the toughest challenge Errol Spence ever had. So Terence Crawford shut a lot of people up. Yes, but if Juice won't give Wilder a rematch, Juice, I have no sympathy for dude. Scance Rants, how about both of those guys have taken losses now? And let's see if that fight happens now. And I guarantee you there will be a rematch. But if you can remember before, was it before Wilder got beat, I think? I think Eddie Hearn was going to give him 50-50. But that was in 2020. But a couple years south, what the hell? But of course he received that DAZN deal. So they must have seen something in Wilder. Let's be real. But to come back to cover this, Errol Spence will be getting more money than he's ever got. And see, that's another factor. He didn't say Terence Crawford, because Terence Crawford automatically made $5 million, $4 million guaranteed. Was it 3, 4 million, 5 million, something like that? From ESPN, each fight guaranteed. Do you think PBC's fighters get that amount of money off top? No. They might get half that. Errol Spence and Sean Porter got $2 million apiece. That's a fact. And that's the guarantee. $2 million. Yo, Kurt, long time no see. Just listening to your video about Eddie on the way home. Strangeness, Counterpunch to you. Anthony, welcome back. Anthony Van Wyck. What's good, Kurt? Counterpunch to you. YouTube effing sucks. If they don't do Bud right, I would freeze Spence out from Undisputed and just fight mandatory defenses. Spence needs Undisputed more than Bud does for legacy. Bud at 40 will still be in better. Listen, let me tell you something. Understand, Bud Crawford has already been an undisputed champion. There's only so many fucking undisputed champions. And Errol Spence is not it. I just remembered to hit the like button. Hit the like button, people. Hit that like button. Someone doesn't want the fight. Someone doesn't. But it's crazy how Errol Spence is now getting more money than he'll ever get. And if he does want a rematch clause, he'll get more money from that. But they didn't say Terence Crawford. Let's move forward.
Nobody else for him to fight at 147 pounds. Now, could he move up to 54? He's not fighting Charlo, so there's no money in 54 unless he's going to fight Charlo. So he might as well do a rematch clause. I know that he wants to be in control and everything else. And Al Heyman's insisting on 3 options. Well, man down there, Spence calls himself with his man down promotions that he's the promoter. Well, if he's the promoter, then why is his advisor demanding 3 options for himself on Crawford? So it's a big cluster, and a clusterfuck is what it is. And that's just the way it is. I don't see the fight being made. And if it is made, it won't be made for November. It'll be made for sometime next year. It won't be made now. Spence will probably really fight Thurman. I think that's been the plan all along. I think they've done this to make Terence look like a diva, like he's the B side and he's just supposed to, jump in their beckoning call and shit, which isn't true. They shouldn't be doing that. Okay, Terence deserves the respect of the 3-division world champion, first ballot Hall of Famer. I mean, I'm an elector of the Hall of Fame. He's a no-brainer to be in the Hall of Fame.
So Rick Glacier is saying that, hey, he deserves respect of being, a 3-division champion, a former undisputed light welterweight champion. And let me counterpunch that for a minute. Yes, he deserves it, but why doesn't he get it? Do you think that's the fault of PBC by itself? Do you think the PBC are the only people that didn't give Terence Crawford respect from doing what he's done in the sport of boxing? No, they're not. You know who's to blame for that? Bob Arum. If Bob Arum wasn't such a cocksucker and talking all that derogatory shit about his own fighter, we wouldn't be in this situation. Or other fighters or other promotional companies or other networks wouldn't have the leeway, okay, to talk about Terence Crawford the way that they're doing. They're saying, well, hey, Bob Arum don't even respect him, and he's with Bob Arum. He needs to leave Bob Arum. He needs to do this. He needs to do that. But guess what he did? He did that. And guess what? We're still having problems with this fight getting made. No, I mean, you could blame Bob Arum, M. Dizzle, is one of the reasons why all these other guys have that leverage, okay? Because they see, look, people see things, they do things, okay? Like, hey, that's acceptable. They thought it was acceptable. They're like, you know what? Look how Bob Arum's talking about Terence Crawford. So we're not going to give him respect over here. Spence needs it for his legacy before he retires. They're trying to wait Bud out, then pick it up when he is gone. I feel Bud could fight mandatory fights for the next 5 years. I mean, he would, but then he would just be obligating his mandatories, and that's really not enough. And with what Rick said is true. Like if Errol Spence goes to 154, there's nobody else. Well, there's no belts to get. There's no belts to get at 154 because Jermell has them all. So the only way that we're going to look at something that's actually going to happen for Errol Spence that consists of him being undisputed would be at 154, but they're both trained by the same trainer, Derek James. Okay, so that's what he's going to have to do. So it's either he fights him, and then I thought Keith Thurman, we was talking about Keith Thurman wants to fight Errol Spence all of a sudden. He's like, okay, well, I thought Keith Thurman was fighting Erislandy Lara, and Lara called him out years ago. And Keith Thurman didn't say shit. Son. He didn't say anything about Erislandy Lara because, Erislandy Lara is a very dangerous fighter. He's still dangerous. He's not as elusive as he used to be, but he's still a very good fucking fighter. And then one thing about Cuban fighters, we all know that they're not as young as they claim to be, but that makes them that much better because if they got to lie on about their age, imagine if they were in their prime. Imagine if they were young. They'd probably beat the shit out of half the people that's in their weight class. Counterpunch. They know Spence versus Bud is not a mega fight. Well, it's a mega fight. It's just that for whatever reason, they don't want to put the money up for the fight. This is no different from Oscar De La Hoya and Felix Trinidad, but the difference is the money. There was money to be made. And it's like they're running out of money. And then you look at guys like Fred from Barbershop Conversations exposing motherfuckers here and there. where that was once his allies, now it's his axes. But he's knowing like, hey, they don't have any fucking money. They don't have any money to put up for anything. That Canelo fight, when he knocked out Caleb Plant, broke them. Then everybody else gets crumbs all the way down. It's a trickle-down effect with the money that they have. And they had to pay Canelo, because if they didn't pay Canelo, Canelo would have sued them for everything they got. And they didn't want it to go that far. And then you see Logan Paul saying, hey, they didn't pay me. I don't know how true that is, because, Floyd, he's came out and said some things regarding, the accusations against him that he didn't pay Logan Paul and such, that, and the other. But, I think it's coming down to that point. He didn't say fit. Where was the fight Taxi what? Who the hell is Taxi Tag? I feel Spence versus Bud is definitely a mega fight. I just think PBC doesn't have the money. Well, if they don't have the money, they should have let that shit on ESPN, and ESPN should have then they should have merged with PBC. The same shit they did with Tyson Fury and Deontay Wilder, man. Let's just be real. That's the same thing that happened. Tyson Fury was signed with ESPN. Deontay Wilder was with PBC Fox. Bars. Let's move forward.
And they're just not getting respected. I feel it's been the plan of Heyman all along to not fight Crawford and to make Crawford look bad, like he's a diva, or he's being unrealistic on the terms and stuff, like he's ducking Spence, when in fact they don't really want to fight. They want to fight Thurman. It's an easy fight. I know that what's his name's in line in the pecking order, Stanionis, but they'll put Stanionis on the card or on another show on Showtime in the main event. They'll let him fight who he wants to fight, and Crawford will end up fighting Thurman. The problem with Stanionis is he's a really good fighter, but not enough people know him where they could put it on pay-per-view. They could do Spence and Thurman on pay-per-view, and even though it's not, the Thurman's on the back nine, it's just a fight. It's not that big a fight, but at least it's saleable.
Listening to that last portion, it made me think about something. It made me think like, well, if this fight doesn't happen, and if they do decide to fight someone like Stanionis, I feel that what'll happen, fuck that. What should happen with Errol Spence should be fed up with Al Heyman, because Al Heyman didn't do what? He didn't deliver. He didn't deliver. It's like this. It's like, okay, you're my advisor, and you advise me to do something in regards to fighting a fighter, and that fight didn't happen. So why should I need you as my advisor? And it's crazy how you never really find, especially with these black fighters. Okay, because I think the only person I've seen had problems with Showtime and Al Heyman was Robert Guerrero. I think it was Robert Guerrero. He had problems. Was it Robert Guerrero or was it? Yeah, it was Robert Guerrero, where he had problems with Al Heyman. Not many though. But the point I'm trying to make is, it's like, okay, if these fights are not being made and these guys are calling their own shots, why are they not making power moves and decisions to help themselves? It's almost like they're brainwashed, scared, protected, which protection can mean both of those other things I mentioned. When people say you need protection, that means, well, give me money. Heyman's right-hand man said when he wants a fight to get made, it gets made. I can only surmise that, or assume that TC was never really in the picture for ES. Well, anybody can call out anybody. And I believe that. When Al Heyman wants something done, he's going to want it done. That's why. Do you understand why Al Heyman never does interviews? Have you ever seen a fucking Al Heyman interview? He doesn't do interviews because he doesn't want to be responsible for the things that he says because he doesn't know the particulars yet. And he doesn't want to answer certain questions because he never wants to be held accountable. The only people that are held accountable are the people that's fighting. He'll have Floyd out there, like, Floyd, Money Mayweather, Al Heyman, just like my dad, and shit like that. But then you don't have Al Heyman saying anything. He just kind of pulls the strings and presses the buttons and makes things happen. He signs the pen, the dotted line, or whatever, but he doesn't say shit. You'll see him, like one time I seen Al Heyman talking to Floyd, and then like the video panned on Al Heyman, and Al Heyman was like this talking to Floyd, and he kind of saw it. Then he was kind of like, Crawford fought 0 pay-per-view, and his last opponents were pay-per-view versus Spence. Okay, so what? I mean, how was the numbers? The numbers were shitty. And I wouldn't if I'm Terence Crawford, I would rather have Terence Crawford money than Errol Spence money. Let's just be real. I'm not saying both of them are rich, but if I had a choice, I would rather have Terence Crawford money. Because Terence Crawford, we know, had a guarantee of what to get and what he got. That's why Bob Arum, just don't get me the money. He's mad because he has to pay Terence Crawford. He pissed, he moaned, he bitched, he groaned. Bars. He did all that because he was mad because he had to pay that man what he owed that man. That's why Bob was bitching, pissing, and moaning. It wasn't that he didn't like Terence Crawford. It was the fact that Terence Crawford could do the bare minimum. All he had to do was win people. That's all he had to do. Okay? So if Bob Arum's mad at himself. And he tries to project it on others. Like, he should be promoting the fight. He's not a guy that promotes the fight like he should. He needs this and that. Shut up. You're the promoter. If you didn't think Terence Crawford was worth that contract, you shouldn't have made a contract up for him to sign in order to pay that man. That ain't his problem. That's yours. That's the whole gist of the matter with Bob Arum. See, Bob Arum's pissed because he had to pay Terence Crawford and then get surprised on why he's leaving. Why are you leaving, Terence? We love you. We still overpaying you. Understand Bob Arum's 90 years old. You know what that means? You know how many generations that man went through? 90 years old? Look, let me tell you something. That motherfucker was around in the 30s, the 40s, the 50s, the 60s, the 70s, the 80s, the 90s, the 2000s. He was around a long time, people. Too damn long. So you think he has like even in the 90s when he was giving De La Hoya all this damn money, he didn't have any problems, but De La Hoya was doing big numbers. But understand that was a different time too, because we didn't have Fire Stick, we didn't have digital bullshit hackers that put shit on the internet for free and all that stuff. We didn't have all that. We didn't have all that access to this fuckery of piracy and all this type of other digital theft. We didn't have that problem. You know what I mean? With first it started with music, then movies, now sporting events. Sporting events was the last to go. Definitely. All is behind the scene. He knows all the particulars. Honestly, Lawrence, we should be less worried about pay-per-view stars and more worried about the best fights. That's true. That's true. Here's the thing. The stipulations only mean shit to me when it means the fights are getting made or not getting made. Okay? But we have to review all the facts, and that's what we're doing. Crawford sells out nowhere. Spence is a company man. Crawford just fought a mandatory for 6. Spence just fought a 3-belt unification for 1.5. You see what I mean? Grim Reaper for 6. Spence just fought a 3-belt unification for 1.5. Make that shit make sense. So again, I would rather be Terence Crawford with my real money versus some money that I supposed to got from some upside pay-per-view shit that we don't even know that he made. Okay? Do you think Crawford beats Canelo? No. The only way I see Crawford beating Canelo, well, he has the foot speed, and here's my thing. He could beat him on the outside, but I think Canelo's too big. But we're only looking at Canelo though in terms of being at 168. If Canelo was at one, let's say if they made that, because it'd have to be at a catch weight. Let's be real. So for 168 and he's at 147, they would have to probably meet at 156 or 157. You know what I mean? To be fair, right? And if Canelo got down to that weight, how good would he be? Would he get knocked out like fucking Roy did? Because that's what Roy Jones Jr. did. And the difference is Roy didn't lose. Roy went all the way up to heavyweight and didn't lose. He lost on the way down. And people advised him not to do that, but he learned, and he will tell everybody, y'all must have forgot Roy Jones Jr., the baddest man on the hill, that if you go up to that weight class and you try to lose weight, you're also going to lose muscle. You're also going to lose strength. And you use strength, you lose power. And that's what he lost. Fucking around with Antonio Tarver. The question is, where does Crawford go? Up in weight and be compared to Canelo? I don't know. Canelo not moving down. I don't think he's moving down. He couldn't even, if he's not going to move down to Golovkin at 160, he's not going to move down to fight Terence Crawford. And if Errol Spence wants to come up there, he has a rude awakening, because what's going to happen, Canelo's going to make his ass go to 168. Or he might do something like go to 164.5. He might do that. But I think he only did that shit because they didn't think that Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. can make 164.5. That's why they wanted to make that fight. But he did, and he was a dead man. And he got the shit beat out of him for 12 rounds. Lost a fifth of his brain power. But I don't know where Crawford goes, to answer your question, Lawrence Johnson. I don't know where he goes. Charlo holding up the Canelo can't run forever. All the computerol in the world won't get him back to 154. I don't think that Canelo, I think Canelo is perfect at 168. 160, 168. He's the best. Like, he's the best. He's the best at what he does at that point. Let's move forward.
What do you make of that tweet that Errol Spence had put out the other day saying, when I said never, I meant never?
I don't know what that means.
Some people are hinting at, he was talking about never fighting Keith Thurman.
You know what? I don't know. You know, he's got no reason not to fight Keith Thurman. Keith Thurman will draw his own, not fans, but at least people that know him. He's got a little name recognition, and it's still a credible win for Spence. I don't think Thurman's got any shot. I think he's in the back nine, but it's a saleable fight. The problem with Spence is he needs a B-side name to fight. He bombed the pay-per-view against Ugas, and Ugas was coming off a big win over Pacquiao, and he still bombed. And he needs a name. He needs a guy who's got some name recognition, and Thurman is that guy.
Now, talking about a possible fight for Errol Spence if he doesn't fight Terence Crawford, it has to be, I agree, it has to be someone like Keith Thurman. Because if it's not, people understand this. Errol Spence, if he doesn't fight Terence Crawford and he fights someone else besides Keith Thurman, his credibility is going to drop unless a narrative is created by some of these boxing channels, which I think that's going to happen. That Terence Crawford ducked out of this fight due to things that he didn't want, and therefore that didn't happen, and therefore the fight didn't happen. So we had to move on or whatever. Okay. Now, I would like Errol Spence to fight Jared Boots Ennis. Why? Because Errol Spence, shit, if you're that tough and you're that young and you're that fresh, why don't you fight another guy that's big and badass like you, that's up and coming like you were? Take his ass out. That would give me so much credibility for Errol Spence. He would get 100% full credit. Exactly. Boots, drumming for life. If he took on Boots Ennis, you think people wouldn't want to see that shit? I'd rather see Boots Ennis than a Keith Thurman fight. Keith Thurman is a guy that's already shot his wad. His wad, or his claim to fame, is calling out Floyd and getting a Manny Pacquiao fight. and then cutting his hair. You know what I mean? Boots ain't ready. Well, I mean, Boots is the next badass, built up fighter. Yeah, I just don't think Boots is ready for that. Well, I think so. I think Boots is ready. You know, Boots versus Spence, that'd be very fucking good. He's the mandatory. You know, but he has to have someone. So I agree with him. He has to have someone if it can't be Terence Crawford. But then here's the thing. Why is it not Terence Crawford? Okay. Let's move forward.
I mean, it doesn't matter that Pacquiao lost. I mean, that Thurman lost to Pacquiao. Pacquiao lost to Ugas. You know, Ugas is not a name. You know, Spence needs a name guy. You know what? It really Spence is. Spence is a B side that has an A side, and Heyman is a figment of Heyman's imagination. Is what he really is, because he's not a huge draw. He can put ass in the seats in Dallas. But if you walk down New York City, you go to New York City, you walk down Fifth Avenue or Madison Avenue, and you say, "Do you know who Errol Spence is?" They won't know who he is. He's not, you know, he's a draw in Dallas as a site draw. He's not even a pay-per-view draw. I mean, just bombed that pay-per-view. I mean,
okay, now we can see the biasness of that. I'm gonna have to disagree. Errol Spence is known in the boxing circles. Yes, I do agree that he is better in Dallas because he's from Dallas or Texas. But Rick Glacier saying that Errol Spence is not known, I don't believe that shit at all. So that's where I draw the line. Like, yo, no, Errol Spence is fucking known. Errol Spence is an A-side fighter. You know, now I do think that Errol Spence, his biggest draws were against Mexican fighters. You know, Mikey Garcia, go figure. You know, but he did real well in the Danny Garcia fight. So yes, he's a big draw in Texas. You know, now the question is, how good would he do in Vegas or Los Angeles? You know, is it only prone to going in Texas, just like only saying that Terence Crawford only can fight in Lincoln, Nebraska? You know what I mean? But saying he's a B fighter, no, he's an A-side fighter. Okay? He's not a B-side fighter to me. I don't think that. I don't think he's a B-side fighter. I think he's done enough in the welterweight division to show that, hey, I'm on the A-side, and I deserve that respect. So, you know, again, so you have to look at where this information is coming from and to whom is saying it, because people put their own opinions in there. And like I told you guys, if you have a guy that's saying, hey, Spence isn't that, Spence isn't this, people don't know who Spence is, you know what that is? That's their own opinion. That's not fact. Okay? Oh, the pay-per-view bombed his last pay-per-view. Okay, well, hey, how about this? Start showing us some fucking numbers. Okay? Statistics. Not just, hey, he didn't do well, it bombed. That's not good enough. That's just hating to me. You know, I keep it fair, bro. This is not a channel that's, oh, Terrence, you know, ESPN. No. Because I just heard Rick Glacier say and talk about Errol Spence like he was talking about another fucking guy. You know what I mean? He's not talking about Errol Spence. He's talking about how he feels about Errol Spence. If I say something about Errol Spence, it's going to be some facts behind it. It ain't going to be, oh, I don't think Errol Spence is a draw. That's what I think. Now you guys could listen to that. That's cool or whatever. But I don't want a bunch of fanboys with a bunch of fanboys' opinion. That's bullshit. Agree for sure. I think that he should jump in with some of the big boys, if not Spence, playing devil's advocate. You know, but saying where you don't know people are going to do or what who knows Errol Spence. Errol Spence is a bad MFer, people. He's a bad mother sucker, right? And it just shows you. But I do know how to weed that out. That's the difference. But you do have to understand that it exists. Biasness exists within Rick Glacier, because Rick Glacier, you know, like what he said about Terence Crawford, well, he's a Hall of Famer. Well, I'm pretty sure he's a Hall of Famer. You know what I mean? But to say if he's the very best in the world, that's an opinion. Now you could base it off of the things that he's done, but just him saying that and that by himself without qualifying it and verifying it, you know? EJ and Sean Porter was in California. I think so, man. I think so, Big Tony. A lot of people know EJ. It's facts over feelings. Exactly, Miss T. X Ace 99 X. Big up Kurt. What will Saudi pay for this fight? I don't know. I see. Here's the thing. Because see, when you're international, it's different. People look at you different, and that's the problem. They're not De La Hoya. They're not Floyd Mayweather. They're not these guys. And you know, to keep it a buck, though, I think and I feel if Floyd Mayweather spent most of his fucking time pouring back to what he did into the fighters of this generation, they would have more success. You know what I mean? I believe that. I believe that Floyd is too busy fucking making himself shine still to this day without putting in the help and the support and the resources that he needed to make these fighters be what he is, and De La Hoya and Trinidad and Fernando Vargas and Turo Gotti, even all these guys that make all these millions of dollars per fight. Okay, now these motherfuckers are $1 million is a big deal. $2 million is a big deal for fighters to get paid these days. $3 million. Let's look at America just for a second. America, okay? We look at Wilder. Wilder, his last fight, he made more money than he made his whole fucking career. Why is that? You understand where Mike Tyson's making $20, $30 million a fight. You know what I'm saying? Holyfield making $20 million a fight. Lennox Lewis making $25 million a fight. The only people who are making that are only like so many people, like Canelo, Joshua, Mayweather, Pacquiao was. Who else is making those numbers though, man? I mean, it's crazy. They're late in their careers, but they weren't making that kind of money. And it's like, and it shows you, it's like, we're in an inflated world right now. Inflation is up. So we, like these guys, like everybody else deserves to get paid more, but they're getting paid less. Whereas in the 90s, it's crazy. Trinidad made $7 million. De La Hoya made 20. Floyd made 20 million to fight De La Hoya. De La Hoya, I think, made 30 or 40. But understand, this is in 2007. You guys understand that shit was damn near 20 years ago. And then it just shows you how the progression of this, it's not even progression. You know, we're not progressing at all when it comes to boxing. It's crazy. I honestly don't think any of them are worth that money. Yeah, 4 or 5 million, but 30 or 40 just makes good fights hard to make. But it's crazy though, man. It's still crazy. It's like even the guarantee's not even cool. You know? Well, look at Joshua and look at Usyk. They're not Americans. Tyson Fury's not American. Exactly. Fury made 30 million against White, but Fury is not American. He might got a fucking house and he can't even come here no more. You know what I mean? That's not funny, but I mean, he really can't. You know? Canelo is not American. He's in the Americas, but he's not America. What's not America? That's not America. What's not America? Mike Tyson made 30 million versus Holyfield in 1997. Dude, exactly, but it's 1997. That's 25 years ago. That's 25 years ago. They should be getting much more than that now. Fury made himself very marketable during his comeback. Still not worth 30 million. People was pay-per-view was new in the 90s. We sick of pay-per-view now. Well, it's still going along, and that's the only way they're going to make the money. Let's move forward.
I mean, tanked badly. You know,
Canelo is not
You
American.
did mention
No, it's
that
not.
Al Heyman had 3 options for Errol Spence. Do you know who those 3 options were?
no. You misunderstood. I said that Heyman wants 3 options on Crawford.
Okay.
In other words, he wants to face 3 next fights after this fight. And if he's the advisor, why is he entitled to that? Errol Spence says he's the promoter.
Okay.
They send out mixed signals. They want this, they want that, but Heyman says he's not a promoter. He's an advisor, but he wants 3 options on what do you call? Well, promoters couldn't get options. They're entitled to them if they want. If they want to press, but Heyman says he's an advisor, not a promoter. But he wants to. He's Earl, but Earl's supposed to be the promoter. But then why is Heyman getting 3 options? It's a clusterfuck. And not to give him a rematch clause. And Spence wants one. That's a no starter for me. I wouldn't even engage in anything further in a conversation if that was the case. It's just not going to get made. They're just too far apart in every single category. And by the way, I'm not saying if you walk down Fifth Avenue, you're Crawford, then they would know Crawford either. I didn't say that, but Earl's a Dallas attraction. Let's face it. He's not what does he do in Vegas? That's why he fights in Dallas. What does he do in LA? He's not that kind of fighter.
There was rumors of Floyd Mayweather wanting to step in and get the fight made. Is there any truth to that? Does he have any type of involvement?
He was trying to cuddle up to Terence Crawford, but Floyd don't put up his own money. What's Floyd gonna do? Use his mouth? No, seriously. If you talk about using a mouth, you might as well profit to might as well get involved. What's Floyd gonna do? He never puts up his own money. It's always showtimes. What's he gonna do? If he was putting up his own money and say, hey, I'm putting up money for this fight, I'm going to give this guy 20, this guy 15, there's going to be a rematch clause for both guys, and he goes, yeah, I don't hear him saying that, because I don't think that, I think what I'm thinking is that Floyd really thought that Spence wanted the fight. So he was saying, well, I'll get this together, and now, I think that Heyman said, hey, shut up. Spence don't really want this fight. I don't really want this fight. Something like that. I just don't think this fight's going to happen next. I can't see it if it happens at all. I just don't think so.
Okay, so hypothetically, if the fight does not happen, you mentioned Keith Thurman for Errol Spence. Who can fight Terence Crawford?
He's got quite a few options. He's got Virgil Ortiz. He's got David Azavanian. He can fight. He's highly rated by the organizations. All the organizations. He's the European champion. He's not a great draw in England, meaning that he's not a native. He's an Armenian. He's not like born and raised there. He's an import, but his promoter Frank Warren has TV, and he has TV called BT Sports over there, which is the second biggest sporting network out over there. Besides, the first one would be Sky TV. That's a possibility. And Frank Warren, as you know, is partners with Bob Arum and Tyson Fury. And I think maybe they would get some ESPN American TV money, and I think they could make Crawford and Azavanian. I think there's enough money there that you could make Crawford and Azavanian. And I think another fight would be Virgil Ortiz, the winner of Virgil Ortiz and Michael McKinson, which is happening here very shortly, I believe in early August, and that's the winner will be number 1 in the PO and mandatory for Crawford anyways. So those are 2 fights off the top of my head they can make. But Crawford, listen, he's not going to get Errol Spence money, but he'll make millions, and satisfy his mandatory, and and the one fight, the other fight's a voluntary defense. So I think there's a lot of I think those are his two options, referring to Crawford. As far as like I said, Spence, I think he's going to fight Thurman. I don't think that the other guys will draw pay-per-view.
Okay. What do you think the backlash would be if the fans found out that this fight is not happening?
Well, it's ugly. It's ugly. You know, and Errol let everybody down the primrose rose path because they're going to put the bonus on Crawford. And it's not Crawford's fault at all. They went into this thing with bad intention of not making this fight. Okay, they put up all kinds of roadblocks so Crawford wouldn't want the fight. The money, the rematch clause, that denying what do you call getting free option. I mean, they keep throwing up roadblocks. Crawford has no right to the long-term auxiliary rights to the film of the fight. In other words, like 20 years from now, 10 years from now, you would know it. Everything that they did was a roadblock, and there was no give and take. And I believe that shows very, very, very bad intent on their part. You know, Spence and Heyman. Now, everybody knows I'm not a lover of Heyman. Don't get me wrong, but you know, the facts speak for themselves. You know, I mean, whether I like it or not, the fight ain't gonna happen, or it's not getting made. It doesn't happen. It doesn't happen. If it happens, hey, I want the fight to happen. It's great for boxing. It's a fight that should be made, but I just don't see it.
So that's the entire interview with Rick Glacier. And okay, the roadblocks, again, that may be a thing of opinion. I hope it gets made because, see, I would rather announce a fight than talk about why a fight's not happening. You know, the backlash, yeah, it would suck. It would suck, but somebody has to take the blame. I don't agree on the rematch clauses, though. I think they both should have rematch clauses for obvious reasons. You know, and Spence, I think if Spence really wanted that fight like he claimed after he beat Ugas, because this is what I think. I think if Ugas would have beat Spence, we would have had a fight with Ugas versus Terence Crawford a lot fucking easier than we're looking here. I don't know if it's pride. I don't know if it's, you know, personality. I don't know if it's overall ducking due to the fact they don't know they're going to win. But that's the first thing I do think about when you have a rematch clause, but you don't want the other fighter to have a rematch clause. You know, those type of things. And it's not like Errol Spence is not disrespected Terence Crawford. Made Terence Crawford, you know, you tell a man go get a belt, then he gets a belt, then he confronts you with the idea of having the belt. Then you mention 3 other fighters, you know, besides him, the guy that you're talking to. So I think at the end of the day, if this fight doesn't happen, and it is because of the rematch clauses, and because they wouldn't give Terence Crawford a rematch clause, or put it this way, because they refused to give Terence Crawford a rematch clause. I want people to understand that. And therefore the fight negotiations fall through. That would have to be, one of those reasons would have to be the deal breaker. You know, open your eyes, bro. Fight never happening. Well, I said the fight wouldn't happen a year ago. But that's when Terence Crawford was with Bob Arum, because I thought Bob Arum was, you know, somewhat of the problem. But if the fight doesn't happen, we know one thing for shit sure. Bob Arum is not the problem. So if Bob Arum is not the problem, someone is. Okay? And if I had to guess, and if it's just some petty shit, because all these are, we have 2 sides. One side makes requests, the other side either says yay or nay. And vice versa. They make requests, then this other side says yay or nay. That's all. Like, look, how about we do this? No. Okay, how about we do this? Sure. Okay, well, how about we do this? Then they got to put it in writing, send it over. No. Okay, well, how about this? Sure. What are we doing? They're negotiating. That's what's happening. A negotiations, they're taking place. So when people disagree, when people talk back and forth, when people are still making conversation with each other by way of email or contract transfers or whatever, they're negotiating. So let's shine a little light of positivity on this, shall we? At least these guys are still talking, according to Rick Glacier. They're still at least talking. Now, hopefully, by the time we get to the end of this live stream, something has happened, some breaking news that the fight will be on, but it will be on in December, something like that. But until then, at least we do have some intel about what's going on and why is it taking so long for these guys to have the fight on. And if that shit is because Errol Spence doesn't want to give Terence Crawford a rematch, that shows that he wasn't confident in beating Terence Crawford. It doesn't. Okay. But anyway, you guys tell me what you think about Rick Glacier's interview. God bless all of you guys. Of course, hit that like button. And everyone has been Counterpunch. Peace.